ASN thanks Otska America Pharmaceutical Inc. for support of this podcast. Welcome to the ASN Kidney Week podcast. Today marks the second day of our daily Kidney Week podcast and the beginning of the annual meeting. Thank you both for joining, and I look forward to the discussion we will have today. I have two esteemed guests with me. I will let them introduce themselves.
Dr. Duc Bakris. I'm professor of medicine and director of the American Heart Association Comprehensive Hypertension Center at the University of Chicago Medicine.
Hi, I'm Dr. Duc Quach. I am a second-year nephrology fellow at Indiana University, looking to complete my training this upcoming spring.
That's exciting. Thank you both for joining me in this podcast this afternoon. As I mentioned, today marks the first day of the annual meeting. Have you attended Kidney Week before?
Well, I've attended Kidney Week since about 1988, so when I finished my fellowship. So yeah, I'm kind of a lifer.
For me, this is my first experience. I've enjoyed every single part of it so far, so it's amazing just being around such great people. Everyone has the same passions as me. It's invigorating. Especially at this early stage in my career, I'm just so happy.
Great.
Dr. Bakris, since you mentioned you've attended Kidney Week in the past, I'd like to explore what's new with Kidney Week this year.
So, this has evolved over the last 30 years and has become much more diverse than it used to be in terms of topics because there's a lot more data, a lot more emphasis on transplant because more data is coming out and there's more innovations. And there's now a lot more of comments on topics like diversity and dealing with the underrepresented patient population, because in the past, really, it's been much more hard science and less social interaction, and that now has been weaved into it. I would say definitely post-COVID, for sure, but for sure in the last 2 or 3 years.
Exactly. I feel that that's a great thing, and something as a young trainee, I enjoy that aspect because it is with the current climate. I am part of ASN Healthcare Justice Committee, and we've been pushing for this from that end as well. And I'm just excited that in the research world, we're looking more into minority groups and looking at that data. How are we impacting those communities? And with the demographics of America, we're going to have to focus more on that as time goes on. And I feel that's a very exciting time for me to be coming up the ranks, So,
No, I understand. Well, look, one of the things that this meeting does superbly and continues to do superbly is to educate about the science, about new concepts, about how to move forward. One of the things historically it has not done well is really focus on the patients and focus on how to translate that to the patient. Because after all, kidney disease is a silent killer. The patient has no clue. And if you don't say anything to the patient figures out real quick if he's at the nephrologist's office, something must be wrong. But the primary care physician needs to be the person educating the patient initially before they see the nephrologist. If they've come to the nephrologist, the party's over. You got to do it before that. And there is a big effort right now to put a plug in to educate primary cares on how to tell the patients that they have kidney disease. And that is a nice complement with what's going on here so it's really the good news. Everybody's finally on the same page. So that's the good news.
I've also learned yesterday that Kidney Week has evolved over the years with the addition of extending the invitation each year to people with kidney disease. It's great to witness firsthand the impact and shared knowledge from these participants at Kidney Week.
Yeah, no, that's big. And I will tell you, in the 90s, it was solely not only a high-level science meeting, but, it was clear that the leaders at that time were wanting to pontificate and all that, and we were just, adoring participants. That has changed dramatically, and thank God. So
today was the first day of the annual meeting. Did you have the opportunity to join any sessions? If so, can you share your takeaways?
I'll go first since I'm the junior here. I got to attend a couple of sessions. Actually, the one that I liked the most was the one that happened just from 2 to 4, which was on nutrition and diabetes, also with glucose transporters, which is a hugely interesting area for me, given that so much has came out in the recent years with SGLT2s, changing the, I don't want to be cliche here, but changing the game, because all we had was ACE and ARBs for the longest time, and now SGLT2, to me, seems like it opened up the floodgates of there's other targets that we can start going at. And even on patients that are already on ESRD, they're looking at how SGLT2 is helping them with peritoneal dialysis, which is amazing. And usually, historically, the moment someone ends up on dialysis, you get taken off your A's and ARBs, and okay, we're not going to do anything for your kidney, your little residual kidney function anymore, because it was hopeless. But studies shows that residual kidney function is actually very helpful. So it's exciting. There's so many approaches to solve the problem. That's why I love nephrology. It isn't here's a hammer, let's whack at it. So it is a very skilled approach and multiple approach that I love.
Was that a dig at cardiologists?
Oh. Yes, it might be. It might be. Just kidding. We love our cardiologists.
So let me just build on what you said, because what a lot of people don't have the concepts down. Everybody thinks SGLT2s are going to lower sugar when your GFR is 30. Not happening. So how are the SGLT2s helping the kidney and the heart when your GFR is below 45, which is where the limit is in terms of any glucose effect? And it turns out these drugs are very powerful anti-inflammatory agents with very good data to support them in the heart and in the kidney. And then if you couple that together with the concept that we just published in Diabetes Care for the pillared approach to therapy in diabetes, you've got ACEs and ARBs at maxed out doses, you've got SGLT2s, you've got finerenone, and next year you'll have Ozempic. And no, not at a weight-losing dose. That I can tell you. Weight loss was not driving the outcomes there. But it was a trial, the FLOW trial. It was stopped early. So all that, stay tuned for next year's ASN. You'll be hearing about that. But I think the point is that there's integrated sessions, and like this one, all right? So next door to this session, I was chairing a session on novel antihypertensive agents that are coming. Now, believe it or not, novel antihypertensive agents over the next 5 years. And the trials are ongoing right now. I'm actually presenting some next week here at the American Heart. But within the coming years, this will be featured because there are things like a molecule that's a mutant atrial natriuretic peptide. Very interesting. There's a lot of aldosynthetase inhibitors, okay? There's more non-steroidal MRAs, not just finerenone. There's another one called osidurenone, which I've been very much involved with, but the company was just bought by, interestingly, Novo. So Novo's moved beyond insulin, and now we're moving into other realms now. So it's very expanding. It's very interesting. We have the mRNA interference of angiotensinogen as an antihypertensive. That's the PCSK9 for nephrologists. One injection, your blood pressure is controlled 11 millimeters, placebo subtracted for the next 6 months, and you're done. So we want to argue about adherence. No, I'm sorry, Mrs. Jones, you just got your injection. We're finished. So that's the kind of stuff coming, and it's all been featured here.
Yeah, it's so exciting. quite frankly honest, it's so exciting because our toolkit is just
now it's
expanded.
bulging. It's bulging.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I feel like, and I'm just excited to be being young and developing in the field where I get to be part of like what's going to work, what won't, how are we going to do this, what's the approach, and solving that problem. It's amazing.
You know, the one thing that is now talked about at this meeting that historically was not, and that is, and that may sound stupid, a team approach. Because you're never going to get the nephrologist or the cardiologist or whoever, the practitioner by themselves is at best going to do half the job. You need the nurse, you need a dietitian, these are critical. You need a social worker, and in some cases you need a psychologist to really kind of build things together because it's a community effort. I mean, it really is. I mean, the patient is definitely at the center point, and they need to get the message not to follow orders, but to cooperate with the nephrologist and the team to help get them where they need to be, because they have no concept of where they need to be. So that's really the key. And this meeting touches on these aspects.
Well, that sounds exciting. I look forward to learning more about the emerging research and the changes in the field, which will be especially impactful for people with kidney diseases.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's another session that was talking about novel therapies for focal glomerular sclerosis. Now, that's a disease it's a killer because it'll kill kidneys. You can transplant them. It'll kill that kidney. Oh yeah, it's a genetic problem, and the reality is now they've got some therapies that look very promising that have been developed over the last decade, really. And they're now getting into clinical trials. So it's going to be, next 10 years, very exciting.
So let's take a look at the next few days of Kidney Week. What are you looking forward to experiencing this year?
I'm just looking forward to learn as much as I can, immerse myself, really live in the moment with all this, and getting to talk to amazing faculties like Dr. Bakris himself.
I paid him to say that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just for me. It's a great experience. And Philadelphia is a great city for me to be at for my first ASN.
Good eating.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that there's a lot of sessions that, I mean, I was also on the program committee. So the sessions were really designed to be in a particular area, whether it's AKI or dialysis or whatever. It was designed to be overarching so that all the new concepts would be brought together to further expand the knowledge base and improve on what's going on in the community. And so whether you want to do AKI, whether you want to do dialysis, you want to do transplant, all of that is going to incorporate new information.
Great. Are there any particular sessions you are looking forward to?
There's so many. I'm still deciding between multiple and their time conflicts. So I got to really dive in. Today I felt like I went to a good one, but I missed out on another one. So I know everything's recorded for November. So I'm looking forward to just going back in the archives and listening to all these great speakers.
Well, there is going to be a session tomorrow, not to put a plug in for myself, but there is going to be a session tomorrow, and it's really on the data on novel antihypertensives that are more advanced and outcomes in CKD. So, for example, I'm presenting a talk on aprocitentan, which is a dual endothelin receptor antagonist, and looking at blood pressure, but in people with CKD. So, and then there's other talks that are going to cover that. So, which you normally think of as garden variety antihypertensives, but this is going to all be in advanced CKD. So there's the difference. Yeah.
I am looking forward to the rest of Kidney Week as well as the both of you. I will say thank you too for joining the podcast this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of Kidney Week.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
ASN thanks Duc America Pharmaceutical Inc. for support of this podcast.